All right, welcome to the ID lesson for quiz number 10. This is the penultimate lesson, second to the last lesson. We'll have one more quiz next week, and that will be it. So, next week, meaning the week after next. So, this is for quiz 10. So, we've got some good birds here. I think they shouldn't be too hard. The first one is the hooded merganser. So, this is Mergansers are a type of duck, but they don't. They look a little different than you might think of. A lot of ducks, their beak is narrower, and hooded mergansers are awesome because they have this awesome hood. So right now, this duck's hood is sort of down. It's not displaying. When it displays, here's a picture. You see the sort of crest comes up, and you get this full white patch on the head. Okay. Um, it also has these brown sides with really delicate bars on it. It has this stripe on the neck, has this bright yellow eye. Okay. And the crest is kind of important because we are going to have another bird that's going to have white on the head also, and I don't want you to get confused between the two of them. Let's see. The females look very different. They don't have the black and white. They have this really funky, punky hairstyle going on, feather style going on. But again, I won't quiz you on the females. So, hooded merganser, you do not need to know the sound, but could you could see them in two different looks. One is when the crest is kind of down, and one is when the crest is on full display. Okay, so let's move on to our next bird. Sorry, I need to check what it is because I didn't set things up right. Okay, yeah. So our next bird is the one that looks a little similar. So I want to kind of compare to show you the difference. This is another duck called a bufflehead. Okay, so look at the white. It's very similar, right? But the bufflehead beak is more kind of duck-like, less pointy. This is a small duck. It's really kind of adorable. And it does not have a crest with the head. So the head itself doesn't have, it doesn't kind of stick out further out the back. And notice the sides are very different. Doesn't have that stripe on the neck, doesn't have those cinnamon sides with the stripes on it. It's just white and black, and then it has this iridescent head, usually looks black from a distance, and then this kind of quarter of its head being black. Again, the females look very different. The females have a little spot of white, but not the sort of quarter of the head being white. And you do not need to know this by sound either. So let's see. Wanted to see if they had a comparison. I guess I'm on the wrong. The Cornell, I'm sure, has a side by side between the two. In fact, I'm going to go there. Let's really quickly go to All About Birds, hooded merganser, and see if we can get a side by side comparison between the merganser and the bufflehead. So size-wise, the merganser is quite a bit bigger. Let's see here. So here you go. This is the female buffhead. Let's see if we can get a male buffhead. Okay, so here they are side by side. Again, the crest sticks out further on the head than the bufflehead's sort of flat head. The merganser has this sort of cinnamon color on its side, where the bufflehead's just white and black, and then there's this kind of neck stripe going on the merganser, and the beak is very much narrower on the merganser. So hopefully you can tell the difference between those two ducks that we have around here. Okay, well, I'll just stay in All About Birds since I'm here, and we'll go to the next bird, which is snow goose. Okay, so Snow goose is a bird that we get in large numbers around this area, particularly in the fall. And so some people, there are places like Dead Creek where you can go and see thousands that used to be able to see thousands upon thousands. They've sort of moved their stopover place to somewhere over in the Adirondacks. So we don't see as many around here, but it's a good one to learn because you might see them in big flocks also flying. And when they fly, sorry, ignore the Ross's goose over on the right side. But look at the white body. It's a very goose-like, sort of heavy body, and these dark black wings. Okay, wingtips. So it's pretty easy to spot them when they are flying. Here they are in huge, huge numbers. Okay, again, look at this picture here on the left. Heavy-bodied goose-like bird with black wingtips. Now, the other things you might want to notice is that if you can see them up close, they have what's called a grin patch. I don't think I can get any closer to this one, but notice right here, it's like it's got it's like its beak is kind of open. It's not open. That's where the water drains out, like we talked a long time ago, early on in the class, about not swallowing water with every time. And so it has, you can see that sort of filter area in its beak, even when its beak is closed. Okay, there are some other geese you might confuse that with, but we're not going to learn them in this class, so that's probably enough of an ID for the snow goose. I don't think you're going to confuse it with anything else you need to learn for this class. Okay, let's look. Osprey. Okay. So the next bird is one that I think a lot of you are familiar with. I know a lot of you have mentioned seeing these birds, the nests, and that is the osprey. These are amazing birds. Let's see. Okay. So this is a dark, one of our raptors. It's mostly dark. It has long wings, and when you see it flying, I like this photo here because this is very typical of an osprey. It often holds its wings bent like this with this sharp wrist here, and you can and that's a distinctive thing about the osprey. The osprey does have the face line on its face. It has these dark patches on its wrists. Okay, so very dark spots here. It is striped underneath on the wing. Let's go back. Let's look at some of these other photos. Here you can see the face patch nice and clear. And you can see it when it's perched, very dark on the upper side of the wing. It's got that eye line. Now, it's a little different than, say, the peregrine falcon or the merlin that we're going to learn later as far as the direction of the line on its face. So this is more of an eye line. Remember, we talked about that as an ID mark is when the line goes from the front of the face to the back of the head through the eye. Okay. I think that is probably enough ID to be able to know an osprey when you see it. If you ever get a chance to watch an osprey hunt, it's very amazing. They fly way up in the sky, sort of circling over the water, and then they'll just plunge. They'll do this amazing dive where they plunge down into the water and grab the fish and fly away with the fish. It's quite amazing to watch. And you do not need to know the sound on this one. Okay, sorry, I need to look again. Right. Okay, next bird is hopefully a bird you've heard of before because it is the state bird of Vermont, and that is the hermit thrush. This is one of our many thrushes. You actually know some thrushes already, even though you might not realize they're thrushes. So the thrush family includes the eastern bluebird and the American robin. But it looks a little different. Now this looks more like a typical thrush. Thrushes tend to have spots on their breast, and if anyone has seen a young robin, a baby robin, they have spots on their breast, as do baby bluebirds. So here is a good photo. So there are a lot of thrushes that look very similar. The hermit thrush Big key to the hermit thrush is this chestnut colored tail. Notice that the tail is slightly different colored. It's more chestnutty, sort of reddish than, or cinnamon maybe is a good color for it, as opposed to the back, okay? It does have spots on its breast, but those spots only go about part way. They don't go all the way down to the tail, okay, which can distinguish it from some of our other thrushes. Notice here on the right, that's a similar looking thrush, right? In fact, look at this. Here's a veery. These are thrushes that we could see around here. Here's another common one that you could compare it to, and that's the wood thrush. But notice the hermit thrush is not chestnutty on its back. It's only chestnut on the tail. The wood thrush is chestnut all the way, and the wood thrush has spots that go all the way along the side to the tail, and the hermit thrush does not. Okay, I want you to know this bird because this is the state bird of Vermont. It also has what I consider to be one of the most beautiful bird calls, bird songs. In fact, if people ask me what my favorite bird song is, I would definitely say the hermit thrush. So this is the one song that you need to know for this week, and what you're going to listen for is a very haunting, eerie sound. The thrushes are one of those birds that use the syrinx. Remember, the syrinx allows for two sounds to be made at the same time, and it makes this really sort of haunting flute-like sound. A lot of the thrushes make that sound, but the hermit thrush has an introductory note, sort of a one-syllable, lower, sort of clear note before it does sort of a complicated flute-like song. So here it is. Listen to it. So do you hear that low note before it does the sort of up and down part? And this is a bird you should be able to hear here in the forest. This is a forest bird. It's a ground nester, and you should be able to hear it when you're walking along, hiking in Vermont, which is why it's the state bird of Vermont. So learn this one, please. Okay, next bird, I believe, is the American woodcock. So we're going to look at that. See if it brings it up, even though I spelled it wrong. Yes. Okay, this bird is awesome. This bird is a very chunky, sort of roundish bird. It feeds on the ground, and it uses this long, weird shaped beak to probe. It actually has nerve endings down in the end of its beak that it can feel with. So it actually sticks its beak down into like the rotting log or the ground and feels around for worms and grubs and things. But notice if you were spending a lot of your time feeding on the ground and you were something as tasty as a woodcock, woodcocks, because they're kind of, they've got big breast muscles, they're really, they're actually game birds in some places where you can hunt them and people hunt them and eat them because they have a lot of tasty muscle on them. So if that's the case, and you're not and you're going to have to look out for predators, it makes sense to have your eyes where you can kind of still see around you when your beak is down in the ground. So notice their eyes are way back in the back of their head. Very camouflaged because again they're on the ground in vulnerable position a lot of the time. Let's see if we can have any more photos here. Okay, so here you can see how camouflaged they are. Notice how far back the eye is. It's got that long, distinctive beak. Very camouflage. Very camouflage. Very, very rounded birds as well. So the shape is pretty distinctive. And when they walk, it's pretty adorable. But what's best known about woodcocks, you can see them, but the time you see them most is when they are displaying. So think back to the idea of when we found out about the sagebrush and the leks where they display. Woodcocks kind of do something similar with a display as well, where they will go to an open sort of grassy area, and the males will sort of walk around and they make this funny little sound, this little beep beep noise. And then suddenly they will take off flying, and they'll fly in circles, and they'll make this twittering sound. They get higher and higher and higher, and then they start making this sound with their wings as well. Very complex, sort of twittery sound happening, and then suddenly they'll plunge down to the ground, land at the last minute, and start making this beat, beat noise again. It's really dramatic to watch. I know that there are a couple places around that are doing woodcock hikes. They do it right before it gets dark, like it's almost so dark you can't see them. And they only do it in a certain time during the spring. So if you're interested in seeing this, I'm sure you can find some place that's doing a woodcock walk. I know North Branch Nature Center is doing one. Um, so check it out. It's pretty fun. I did not ask you to learn the sound for this one, but I'm going to play it for you anyway so you can hear the sounds I was trying to imitate there. So this is when it's walking around. Now it's taken off. And that's actually its wings making that sound. And now it starts adding in a vocalization. And now it's getting higher and higher up in the sky. And now it's plunging down to the ground, and it starts making its peat noise again. So that's the American woodcock. Aldo Leopold wrote about this bird, called it the timberdoodle, which is one of its nicknames. So I encourage you to learn more about the American woodcock because it's a pretty fun bird. Okay, we've got a couple more, two more. This is a bird I've been seeing a lot lately. I think there are more of them here in Vermont than I'm used to seeing in Indiana. It's called the brown creeper. I may have mentioned this bird before because this bird, like the nuthatch, gleans things off of the barks of trees. But this bird flies down to the base of the tree and sort of winds its way, circling on the trunk of the tree, going upward. It is a little brown bird. It's very small, think smaller than a chickadee. It doesn't have much of a neck. It's kind of, as someone said yesterday to me, like an egg with a beak. It's got a very rounded egg shape. And they have their beak is a little bit curved down, which helps them get things out of the bark. And they make a really high-pitched sort of sound, which is how I usually. They make a song too, but that's more rare to hear. You do not need to know this sound, but I'm going to play it for you. So that's their full song. That's the high pitch call that you tend to hear when they're out and feeding on the trees. Okay, one last bird. Can't remember what it is. Sorry, have to check. Okay. This is one of our raptors. For those of you who have been wanting to learn more about birds of prey, this is a merlin. This is one of our smaller raptors. And there are quite a few of them around this area. If you look at the range map, you will see that we are just at the very edge of their nesting grounds. So we tend to not, if you were to go south of here, you would not see merlins very much. Let me show you a few pictures. Trying to look for a good one. Here's a good one. Okay, so notice it does have this eye stripe. Remember with the osprey, it had an eye line, and this has a bit of an eye line too, but also has this stripe that goes from the eye down, almost like tears coming down. It's very, very striped barred. We've got these stripes coming down. The eye mark here is kind of faint, which is why I was looking for an area with a picture where you could see it better. Notice the stripes on the tail. It's got 2 narrow stripes and then 1 very wide dark stripe on the end of the tail. Also has very pointed wings. And if you remember back to our study on flight, that means that it's an agile flyer, probably hunts on the wing, so it has to be able to adjust and catch things. So you can see it kind of has a grayish head as well. Okay, so that is the merlin. I think the only bird that we've learned that might be really similar would be, I don't think we learned the sharp-shinned, we learned the Coopers, right? And it's not even on here. So I think you'll be able to tell a merlin when you see it, and you do not need to know its sound. So those are the birds you need to know for quiz number 10.